Women's basketball stunned Tennessee on the road. Here's how the Bulldogs got it done and what it means moving forward.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Landon McBride. Welcome to Locked On Mississippi State, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Like I said, I am Landon McBride, a longtime journalist and a college sports fanatic. Jaron was not able to join me today. We got our schedules mixed up a little bit, so it's just me today. But like I said, we're going to be breaking down the women's big win over Tennessee on the road, and we're going to touch on the men getting that win over LSU. And then we're going to talk about baseball. It's coming up. It's coming up fast. And it's been mentioned, could this be the start of the golden age of Mississippi State baseball? And then finally, like we do every Friday, we're going to talk about next up in Starkville. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. And if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So last night, women's basketball went to Knoxville, Tennessee, and Tennessee was ranked 15th. They've been playing very well all season. And we've talked about them as women's basketball team. Very good, but can they compete with these elite programs? Last night, they did more than compete. They really took control of this game. Final was 77-62. After the first, it was a tight game. Tennessee was actually up 3, 9-12. But in the second quarter, Mississippi State really took control. 26-14 was the score of what was scored in the second quarter, really giving them a big lead. And then they built on it even more in the third. 24 points, only giving Tennessee 16. Fourth, pretty much a wash. Tennessee outscored them by 2. But when you're able to go into someone's house that is as good as Tennessee and you walk out with a 15-point win, that's a statement win. This team is for real. Now, we've seen some inconsistencies throughout the schedule. They'll get a big win, then they'll lose one, like what they did with Kentucky, upset Kentucky. Then they lost to Alabama. Now they've got to upset Tennessee. So we'll see if they can get some consistency going moving forward, stacking some wins like they were in the non-conference schedule. But this team can run with the best teams in the country, and we're starting to see that. They were led scoring by Kharyssa Richardson, 21 points, and she contributed 4 rebounds. Trayanna Crisp, second leading scorer, 15 points. And then you got some big games from Madison Francis, 12 and 10 points and rebounds. And then Favorite Ndozi, another big one, 11 points and 14 rebounds. So you're really seeing this team start to come together and really build on something. And obviously, Sam Purcell was hyped after this win. When you go into a place like Knoxville and walk out with a win, he had a few really good quotes. And one of them was, he said, sometimes you have to win kind of ugly because Tennessee wants to play ugly. We had some pretty bad moments with 24 turnovers, but whenever we started handling the press, we made it look pretty. And that's huge. Sometimes you have to win ugly, and the best teams find a way to do that. And they found a way to win ugly over a very good team. 24 turnovers, that's not easy to overcome. That's a very large number of turnovers. Overcoming that against mediocre teams can be challenging. And they not only overcame that, they won big with that. And, he talked about how they made a few adjustments with how they came out with different press looks. But this was my favorite quote coming out of this. And he was asked about how they were seeing some confidence in this team. And he said, 100%, anyone listening to this broadcast knows I keep saying that. This is the toughest league in America. What I love is that everyone was talking about all 10 SE teams that are ranked, and we're not one of them. We have some hungry dogs. We want to sit at the table. I think tonight was a statement that we want to eat as well. And yeah, this was a statement win. When you, I've said it multiple times already, but when you go into a place like that and walk out with a 15-point win, you're making a statement. And like I said, hopefully they can build on this a little bit. And, they did it. They played very well defensively. Tennessee did have Talia Cooper with 19 points, but it was on 9 of 24 shooting. And when you can make someone, yes, get a lot of points, but if you can make someone shoot bad and have to take that many shots to get that many points, that's a good defensive effort. So, like I said, big win, but we've seen this team do it before. I mean, not that long ago, just, on the 18th of this month, they got a big win over number 7 Kentucky. Now they got this big win over number 15 Tennessee. Now Sunday, Missouri is coming to Starkville, so you would think they should be able to handle Missouri, get a little momentum, which would lead you to the massive game on February 5th. It's Thursday, South Carolina against number 2 South Carolina. That's a huge one. This whole season, we have been talking about how this team is very good. They have a lot of good players, and you're really starting to see them come together. The different players find their roles, but can they run with the elite teams? And it looks like on any given night, this team can run with some of the best teams. Now, they haven't shown they can do it consistently week in and week out and be considered one of those elite teams, but they have the players that they can give anyone trouble. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this year goes, because next few games outside of number 2 South Carolina, you have Georgia, Arkansas, and Florida, who are all unranked right now. So if you go, 4-1 over your next 5 games and play South Carolina tight, I mean, that's going to bode well for how this team looks going into SEC tournament, into March Madness. And we'll talk a little bit about the men's, like I've said, and Jaron has said as well. This season's we think the season's over, barring a magical run in the SEC tournament, which we're not really sure this team has the capability of making a run like that. But they got a huge win over LSU, 80-66 in Baton Rouge. And they controlled this one from the jump. At halftime, it was 44-21. So this team, they ran away and hid with this one. A very balanced scoring night for the Bulldogs. Hubbard gave you 15. Quincy Ballard gave you 13. Jabari McGee got you 11. And then Makora with a 10 and 10 double-double. Another night for Josh Hubbard where shooting wasn't great. Only 4 of 12. 1 of 6 from three-point range. Went to the line 7 times, hit 6 of them. So I'm not really sure if it's a defensive thing, but Hubbard seems like he's had way more bad shooting nights this year than last year. But that's always going to be a concern when your leading scorer is a smaller guard. That we've talked about that a lot. But I mean, I wouldn't trade him for anyone, but that's just one of those things you have to, comes with the territory of having someone that size. This is a big win for them. Obviously, we'll see if they can start to stack any kind of momentum. They do go to Missouri, and then they'll have Arkansas, Tennessee, Ole Miss. I'm not sure what to do with this team at this point. I just hope for some entertaining basketball, give us some good moments. Maybe we'll get a fun upset. Maybe I don't think they have what it takes to be able to win the NCAA or the SEC tournament, but maybe they'll give us a couple of good games in there. Let us watch this team a little bit longer, because this is they can be a fun team to watch when things are clicking, but things don't click enough for them to be consistently a fun team to watch. Obviously, Josh Hubbard is climbing up all the different ranks of career numbers, and he's starting to close in on made threes for Mississippi State. So that's something to watch, even if this team does continue to not play well and not really be able to string together some wins. Hopefully they can string some together and give us some good games to watch down this stretch. And at the very least, I don't expect Hubbard back next year. So hopefully we can send him out. He gets hot. We can send him out on a good note. We can have some fun basketball to watch down the stretch. That's it for that. And we will, coming up after the break, we are going to talk about this baseball season, how it's been mentioned that this could be the golden age of baseball in Mississippi State starting. What would that even look like?
What's the last call for football on FanDuel? One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Thank you for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And if you haven't already, go check out our Everydayer Club. You get access to ad-free audio for Locked On Mississippi State, which would be in your Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, and an invite to a members-only Discord. Me and Jaron are in there. We'll talk about, we can talk about games when they're happening, talk about some rumors if we get any. Right now, it's just me and him in there talking to each other. Come join us in there. It'll be great. So the link to do that will be in the show notes. Hope to see you in that Discord soon. So baseball season's coming up. It's about 2 weeks away. And over on the Thunder and Lightning podcast, they mentioned that this could be starting the golden age of Mississippi State baseball. And when I heard that, my initial thought was, yeah, this team is very talented. Brian O'Connor's a great coach. But then you think about that statement for a little bit and what that would mean. Because Mississippi State is one of the most storied baseball programs in all of college. So what would the golden age look like? And you go back and you see the run, and picking what the golden age would be previously, kind of a hard call, because your two options, really, I think there's two runs. One is much longer than the other. You have your recent one of 2018, 2019, and 2021, which comes to the national championship. Or you go old school. And yes, you don't have the title, but you have this run of College World Series appearances in 79, 81, 85, 90, 97, 98, as well as, regional championships mixed in during that time in 97, 98, 2000, 2001. So you can either go with that 4-year time period, which we all know what happened in 2020. So that's why there's not another number there. I would expect similar run there, or you go with about a 25-year time frame from the late 70s through the 2000s. That's your competition for what the golden age of our team would be previously. And I mean, which is just insane when you pull up the Wikipedia page. So get all these numbers laid out and you see the NCAA tournament appearances. I mean, 79, 81, 83, 84, 85, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. This is crazy. This team has so much history that for something to enter the golden age of this sport for this school, you're talking a dynastic historical run would have to be achieved. Now, I think that's possible. Brian O'Connor has built a very good team for this next season. And I have talked about that a few times because you have so many guys who are going to start this year, that aren't going to be here long, like Blake Bevis. He's a senior transfer. And then you, Jackson Owen, grad transfer. Ace Reese Jr., as much as I would love for him to stick around for his senior season, if he replicates what he did last year, that man's a first-round pick. So I would assume he's most likely gone. Drew Wires, senior transfer. Eric Freeze, he's a graduate. So you have a lot of older guys. So I think that bodes well for success this season. But he killed the high school recruiting as well. Talked about Jack Bauer and how in 2 years he could be in the conversation for the first pitcher taken in the draft. He's already top hitting 103 as an 18-year-old and hasn't really learned to pitch to college athletes yet. He needs to work on his secondary stuff. So you have that Jacob Parker, who we all thought might not come to Starkville because he was going to be drafted so high, but is here. He's another guy who could, in 2 or 3 years, be a very high draft pick. And almost every day it's coming out that another high-ranked baseball recruit is either choosing or considering Mississippi State. And that's how you build something that could enter the golden age of Mississippi State baseball. So, and then also he's brought in transfers who are sophomores who might be here a year or 2 years as well. So he's really built a team to win now and compete over the next couple years. So you have a coach who's done it before, who seems to have a plan in place for how to do it here. Oh, the one thing is, as long as the NIL, which to get a transfer class like what we saw at, this past year with the Valencius brothers, Aiden Teal, getting Jack Bauer, he commanded a little bit of NIL money, and then keeping Ace Reese, all these guys, that kind of NIL investment in the baseball team, as long as you keep that, and as long as Brian O'Connor, he seems fired up. He seems like whatever was going on at the end of Virginia, his tenure there that resulted in them falling off, he left that in Virginia and he's back. And as long as he continues this fire, the continued investment in this program, I don't see why you can't at least match what we have seen this baseball team do. Now, the only reason I am not saying you can beat it, this can become the golden age, because I feel the pieces are in place to do that. The problem is baseball is such a weird sport when it comes to individual games or individual series. You can have the best team in the world. Like, you could be by far the best. But you get into a 3 or 5 game series, you could run into a hot pitcher and a hot hitter on the other team. And even though you're far more talented, that pitcher's just on for 2 games and there's nothing you can do about it. We've seen that before. I mean, how long ago was it that everyone, not the best example because they've won the last 2 titles, the Dodgers, but no one that long ago where it was like, oh, they're just going to walk into the title and they were getting knocked out in the division series, the championship series, because they were running into hot pitchers. So that's always going to be a thing people need to remember when watching baseball is, yeah, you can have the best team. Yes, you can have the best players. Yes, you can be hot, but there's always the chance that you just run into a guy who's on fire and becomes a chainsaw for the next 2 weeks, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I do think if this team is not hosting a super regional this year, I honestly think this season is a failure. They need to make the College World Series with the talent they have, the money that has been invested. There is no reason this team should not be in this program, regardless of who the head coach is. This team should be in a super regional every year. But with how this is constructed, if you are not hosting a super regional at a minimum, that's failure. This team should be in the national title game. So, and like I said, this team has the pieces to build on that. So to be the golden age of baseball at Mississippi State, you have to be hosting regionals every year, obviously. And you would have to make it to the super regionals just about every year pretty much, and host those most years. Because when you look at those College World Series appearances in the 80s, it was a 2-year gap, 3-year gap, 5-year gap, 7-year. So pretty much every 2 to 3 years, you have to be in the College World Series to be in the conversation for this to be the golden age. Now, if you rattle off 3 straight titles, yeah, it's the golden age. That's easy. Back-to-back titles, most likely. That's when that conversation really picks up steam. I think you would need to continue some success a little bit more to really call it the golden age. But that's really what we're looking at here, is you're going to have to see some serious sustained success. I think they have the coach to do it. They have the backing to do it. They definitely have the facilities to do it. It's just going to be continuing to develop these players in a way that you can see this success continue over a sustained period of time. I think we are going to really have to see this team over the next, really just about the next decade before we can definitively say, is this the golden age of Mississippi State baseball? But that's because of the storied history of this program. That is, unless, we rattle off 3, 4, 5 straight trips to the College World Series with 2 or 3 titles mixed in there, then yes, that would be the golden age. But that's a huge ask when you look at the history of this program. I do think it's possible, but it's such a big ask. If it ends up falling short, this could still be a great run with Brian O'Connor. All right, coming up, we will talk about what is coming up in Starkville.
Well, this is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Some of the things that I always look for is who is that player, that fan, that play, that coach, where that specific moment kind of defines the game, defines the team. These kind of moments remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. And it's hard to pick from this past week after what we just saw with the women obviously losing, with the men obviously losing, and not looking competitive in those games. But I think I'm going to give that never quit moment to Phil Lodeholt. It was an uphill battle to land Jordan Seaton. They didn't end up landing him, but he didn't quit. I mean, when all signs pointed to LSU, you then heard the rumors that, hey, he's back on talking to him, back trying to get involved with the Josh or Jordan Seaton recruitment. So I want to give that props to him, even though he ultimately didn't pull it out. But we put that same passion in every model. Highlights make the real. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, welcome back. And what I am looking forward to over this weekend in this next Up in Starkville segment, I mean, like I mentioned, both of these basketball teams are playing Missouri this weekend. The men are traveling to Columbia. See if they can get a little momentum going. I do think this season is mostly over, but I want to watch some fun basketball. And if they can at least start playing competitively, give us that fun team, see Hubbard maybe climb up a few of these career leaderboards, break a couple records down the stretch, that'd be great. And the women obviously have Missouri coming to Starkville. See if they can build on this big win over Tennessee and start stacking some wins, get some momentum going into the SEC tournament. Now, the one other thing that I kind of got my eye on, and this would be a great thing, if this breaks over the weekend and you would join us in the Everydayer Club, we could talk about this, but former Navy midshipman, offensive lineman Jalen Acevedo had an official visit with Mississippi State. No word yet on kind of what his timeline is and if he is going to commit, but there'll be another offensive lineman that, we've talked about so many times. This place needs some bodies. Phil Lodeholt has brought in a ton. Another guy with some playing experience coming in would be great. So if that breaks over the weekend, should be in the Everydayer Club. We can talk about it a little bit in that chat. But those are really the things I am looking forward to over the weekend. We'll be back on Monday to talk about all of this, so much more. We're going to start breaking down baseball roster a little bit more over the next week or so, really delving into the different positions, the new players, the returning players, and what we can expect along with our expectations for the season coming up over the next few weeks as we get ready for what should be a very fun baseball season. That is it from me. Jaron will be back next week. And until next time, Hail State.